we're going to talk about the UFC and the partnership that they've just signed with CBS and Paramount. That deal is 7 years, $7.7 billion, which, if I've done my maths about right, Nick, that's pretty much double what they were making with ESPN previously,
Yeah,
which I
about
think was
that.
around 500
Yeah, a
million.
little bit, maybe even a little bit more, I think, depending on
Yeah.
the exchange. Yeah.
Yeah, so quite a significant jump. You know, we talked a little bit about where the UFC would potentially go next. I mean, we've talked about Netflix because of the TKO partnership and WWE being already transitioned over to there. I don't know if there was a ton of smoke that Paramount Plus would be there, but you know, maybe that's us not paying enough attention. But it is a significant deal in terms of the increased money that the UFC is going to make off the back of this, which is significant in itself. When we've been talking about our sports rights plateauing, flattening, clearly not the case for the UFC at this stage. But the other really interesting part of this is all of the fights are going to be streamed on Paramount Plus. And then some of the major events they talked about could just be put directly on CBS, the linear broadcast channels. So, Nick, there's the side of, you know, UFC found a new partner, significantly increased the revenue from the broadcast rights. But then there's a whole other side that they've come out and said nothing's going to be on pay-per-view, which UFC has famously been involved in. And, you know, combat sports in general, you know, we've talked about, we're sharing stories that are nearly 20 years old now, Nick, about pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And it goes back even further than that. Hell, the Tyson fights maybe 30 years back now. It's scary. It's probably not 30, but it's not far. It's closer to 30 than 20, I think, Nick.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to admit that, but like it might be.
I'm too scared to look it up now to confirm how long that was ago. But yeah.
So there's a few ways to go through and tackle this. I mean, like maybe before we get into the pay-per-view
97, 96.
Close,
They had two
closer.
fights, 96 and 97. The bite fight was 97. There you go.
Yeah.
So
Closer to 30 than 20.
yeah, that's worse than I expected.
Yeah. So let's tackle this in two parts. So the first part, let's talk just strictly the business side of things. UFC finding a new partner. Yes, ESPN we've talked about is a great partner because of all the side pieces it can do as a media outlet. But it's not like CBS doesn't have a sports background with some of the other entities it works with college basketball, the SEC and college football, the NFL. It's not like they're not a sports media entity at the same time, but it is a change, you know, but big money involved with it. So I see it as a win-win.
Well, I think it is a win-win for the two parties that have done the deal. The money is extraordinary. Look, I think taking a step back, you've got to look at some of the other pieces that have sort of played out, or the things that have happened alongside this. You had the Skydance merger, valued at $8 billion, and then immediately there's a deal for almost equivalent amount of money to do some rights deal with the UFC. Which is let's just pause there for a second. Think about this. There's two of the biggest names in media, Skydance and Paramount, come together, and their collective value is about the set of one set of major sports media rights for a number of years. So licensing rights for a few years is the value equivalent to these organizations. It's quite extraordinary to think about how that perception of value, or just how that value is manifested. But anyway, I digress. I just thought those numbers were eerily close to each other, and the timing was really close. Then you marry up ESPN and the NFL deal happening. There's reportedly a commitment of a couple of extra $1 billion going towards the NFL from ESPN for those the ability to have the Red Zone and NFL Network license and so forth. And then you have WWE announcement. ESPN's also got WWE. So those things are connected. Now, what was the chicken and egg in that situation is difficult to assess. And then you have to think about, okay, well, they've been running this approach. ESPN have been running this approach for quite a while now, where a lot of fights are on pay-per-view. They've been using ESPN Plus as well as a core channel. Well, ESPN Plus is basically wrapped up into the ESPN flagship product, by and large. And we know pay-per-view is a dying source. We've given a bunch of examples on that. You've got the Netflix story. You've got BBC and Boxer. I'm not sure if we've covered that, but that's quite a big news story. Them going to free-to-air there and taking those rights from Sky. And all the Netflix fights basically being available to all subscribers for free. And now those are pretty significant shifts of an industry approach that I think sort of set the scene for this to be almost inevitable to happen. And you layer in that UFC has added a lot of fight nights now. They have loads of fights going all the time. That's inevitably not going to be really solid for pay-per-view in the long run by having too many moments. Like, it's an events-based experience. You don't think you want to pay pay-per-view every other night or every other week, right? And that wasn't the approach they took, but that's I thought that gives the sense of like why pay-per-view is a difficult prospect if you don't have the right players or athletes lined up. So I think it is a bit of like all those things coming together made another deal almost inevitable. I would have thought that ESPN would be quite comfortable spending the money on those rights if they thought they could get the value out of them. But with the NFL and with the WWE deal, there's probably just too much crossover value there to then pay 100 and whatever % increase in media rights on top of that. If the NFL deal wasn't going to happen and if WWE wasn't going to happen, I would have probably bet they would have made a pretty competitive bid to keep the UFC on their channels, even if it wasn't taking the pay-per-view model. But inevitably, that's how it's played out. And Paramount have hit this new business, this new entity has hit the market with an absolute bang, securing the last, well, not, I keep saying the last, but like the biggest set of rights right now. The biggest set of rights available to date in 2025. So, a lot to digest, and I'm just curious to see how far Paramount go with it now. Is it going to be just about doubling down on the US and trying to get market share in a super competitive market, or will they really push into international? Not that this deal really helps that, but because they've been marketing themselves globally. Like, you think with F1, they are one of the major sponsors. They have their brands everywhere on the billboards. What's the play here? I'm really interested to see what's going to manifest from here.